I care deeply about this, right? This is, central to the economy where I was raised and still think of when I think about home. And I also know that, as a journalist who's covered the Midwest so much, sick of being called a flyover state, when manufacturing shifts, the eyes of the global economy watch how that transition goes. So we're going to talk about that in depth with two people who know it very well and are critical decision makers in all of this. The Chief Operating Officer of Ford, Kumar Galhotra, is with us, and the President of the Manufacturing Institute, Carolyn Lee. Thank you both. Nice to see you. We had a robust, wonderful discussion last night at the dinner, and I'm excited to bring it to the stage. Thank you both very much for what you do and for being here. So let's just jump in first on this issue of how AI is actually changing manufacturing right now. We're going to get to what will be and can be, but what about right now on the factory floor, the actual changes today? So Kumar, let me begin with you, and then Carolyn will get your take.
Okay. So as you can imagine, I'm a bit biased. I feel that our factories, the car factories, are just unbelievably wonderful places. So you walk in one corner where the docks are, there's metal and glass and rubber and wires. And in the other corner, a vehicle rolls off the line. In Dearborn Truck, it rolls off the line roughly every 50 seconds.
Wow.
In Kentucky Truck Plant, it's every 40 seconds. And that's a vehicle rolling off every 40 seconds that somebody's going to enjoy for the next 15 years. If it's a classic, somebody's going to enjoy for multi-generations. So as you can imagine, Professor R was talking earlier about tasks. If you're going to do that, if you're going to take 4,000 or 5,000 pieces of material, turn it into a vehicle that rolls off the line at that speed, there are tens of thousands of tasks being performed. So what AI offers that can really, really revolutionize manufacturing. It offers sensing, it offers problem solving, it offers physical AI like robots or robot dogs. So I'll just share a quick example with you. I was in one of our assembly plants in Valencia, Spain. As I'm walking down the line by myself, I see a robot dog walking around. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I had never seen that before, so I come back to the office.
You're like, did we approve this dog to walk around?
Yeah, the thought did cross my mind, like somebody's having fun with company money, but let's go find out. And I talked to a couple of very, very enterprising process engineers, and what they had done was taken this robot dog, put sensors on it. A camera that sees, a smell sensor that can smell if there's a fuel leak or a transmission oil leak or engine oil leak. It has a microphone, it hears, and it has vibration sensors in its feet and its body, so it can sense what's a normal vibration in the plant floor and what's an anomaly. So AI is great at anomaly detection. So it just walks around the plant all day long, and it predicts a particular conveyor is having a problem, or it predicts there's a leak, or it hears we have a lot of air tools in the plant, so if there's an air pressure leak, it senses that. It improves workflow. It sends an automatic email to the skilled worker who's going to come fix that and say, hey, problem at pillar number D3. That's just today. That was actually a year ago.
And this was a bottom-up idea. I mean, and now you're scaling it?
Now we're scaling it. Yeah, scaling is obviously very important for our business. So engineers are coming up with ideas to make engineering work faster and better. So we're setting up centers that can sort of consolidate all these bottom-up ideas, and then the good ones can be scaled across the system. So
yeah, that's a great opportunity. I love that story.
Very cool.
Carolyn, what are you seeing?
So in many ways, this isn't particularly new. I think how we're doing it, right? Vision systems have been in use for a long time. Machine learning has been in use. If you're looking for really small flaws in, say, a silicon chip, it's a really minute defect you're looking for, and vision systems are helping you there. So in many ways in manufacturing, a lot of this has been happening. We've had automation and robotics for a long time. In fact, that just is continuing to pace. So it's been a conversation up until the last 2 years about how do you take all of those systems and put it together, and what's the data and what's the use and how is the connectivity and are you making sure you're maximizing these? Well, now we're kind of on hyperdrive. To go to Mike Rowe's comment before about the Matrix, right? There's so many movie analogies we could make in all of this. So right now we're having I think a bigger conversation faster at deeper levels. But one thing that we know, and this goes to something James mentioned this morning that we're really excited about at the Manufacturing Institute, manufacturers see that AI is critical to the growth of their business. However, too many manufacturers, 82% of manufacturers are saying that they don't have their people don't have the skills necessary to put it fully to work. So there's, I think, a lot of anticipation. I think there's a lot of excitement. There's use cases where AI is being built in at very sophisticated levels, but it's in pockets because right now we aren't ready. We don't have the change systems in place and the skilled and the people in place because people are really still at the heart of it, even when we're having the conversation about AI.
Yeah, of course they are. And also we talked last night about trust and the importance of employees trusting that their companies, like Ford did with the robotic dog, will say, okay, we're listening to what you think can be created to help. And also we're going to train you to get to the place where you need to be to do your work most efficiently with this new technology, because it costs companies so much money and time. I don't have to tell you this, to let go of someone and then bring someone new on who might have those skills. Carolyn, can you remind us of the statistics in terms of that 2004 study that you guys did with Deloitte and what they said?
Yeah, so one of the things the MI is known for, hopefully it will soon be, as we deploy the AI skills training, it'll be that. But one of the things we're best known for is a regular study we do with Deloitte. It is the talent study that defines the problem, the challenge we have in manufacturing on the talent front. So 2024 was the most recent one. And what we found then was that by 2033, we'll need to fill 3.8 million jobs in manufacturing. Of those, 1.9 would go unfilled because we don't have the people with the skills.
In this country.
In this country alone.
Yeah.
And that was before the recent, so that included the Infrastructure Act, the American Recovery Act, and the CHIPS Act, all under the Biden administration, because this was out in the field in late 23, early 24. So think about all of the announcements that have come. Ruth mentioned this morning the conversation about being at the White House a few weeks ago and the number of commitments that companies have made about investment in manufacturing in the US. So we think that number is only going to go higher. We know that AI will help. It's going to drive productivity and efficiency. But we also know that we still need a whole lot of skilled people at the center. And we've been facing that talent challenge for a really long time now. So it's going to continue apace.
I've been so struck over the last year listening to Ford CEO Jim Farley talk about this idea, and not just an idea, the critical nature of what he calls the essential economy, right? That what I've been talking about on stage today, the people that micro profiles, the people that make our economy work and progress for all of us, that are at the core of all of this. And he's talked about his frustration, Kumar, about this hole where we have so many of these manufacturing jobs to fill, starting salaries, $120,000, so six-figure salaries. Can you talk about that in the context of where the AI-driven industrial systems and changes for those workers are actually working and helping the most?
So what we're finding out, especially in those types of jobs, is there is the actual, let's take a dealer technician, for example. There's actual value-added part of fixing the vehicle that people truly enjoy. That's why they're there for. Yet there is a ton of what I would say the grunt work, of the task work, of filling out the paperwork and the forms and looking up data, looking up histories. So what we're doing is, both for our factories and other job classifications, value stream mapping. It's like a really old world manufacturing process of literally taking the work process and breaking it down and saying, this is value added, this is not value added, this is value added, this is not value added. And you'd be shocked how much non-value added work is asked of skilled workers. I think it's true in many professions, true for nurses, true for doctors, true for technicians. So we're doing that work for a lot of our job classifications, saying which grunt work, which mundane work can be done by AI and what's truly value added that they bring to the party. Yeah. And that's really encouraging them to come into the workforce saying, yeah, that helps me.
Because then they get to do more, or we all get to do more of what stimulates us and more of what excites us, which creates a better product.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's the more meaningful work versus the mundane work.
Yeah. And not to mention the time that they'll get back, some which will be poured into the work, but also like into quality of life, which all around is better for us and our companies, no?
Yeah, both. But you can use that time for your quality of life, of course. You can use the time for improving the quality of the product, quality of the organization. So when I meet young engineers in our company, I often ask, what percent of your time is spent doing engineering, which is what they want to do, and how much is spent in mundane work? And I'm shocked. It's usually like, I'm doing 60% real engineering.
Wow.
Imagine that 40%. And they're so excited about using these tools to offload that 40%.
More excitement that you're hearing from them than trepidation, or is it generational? Is it the younger folks are more excited?
I haven't seen it
or is that a
generational.
stereotype?
Yeah, that's a bit of a stereotype. In all age groups, there is a big spectrum. There are people really excited about learning it and applying it, like taking the initiative, the two process engineers who created the robot dog, and say, I can combine this, and this, and do something really special. And there are people who are, quote unquote, rather afraid of it.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed there's just this initial hesitancy. Once you get them past and they see a couple of examples, then they jump in and then they're really excited. So I think this is going to work out okay.
This is like the text threads I wake up from my mother, very excited once she's figured out how to use Gemini,
there you go.
use all these tools. She's like, wow, I can do this. Carolyn, talking about, as I really believe it takes corporations, companies like Google, like Ford and beyond to partner with decision makers in Washington, to partner with industry groups like yours to get this to happen. So just take, for example, what Google.org has done, announcing the $10 million grant for you guys. How do you envision that changing the game for really, tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of these workers?
Yes. So it's a great question. And we had a long conversation last night, and Kumar just mentioned it, the quote unquote fear. I think right now in the conversation, there's a lot of fear-based, it's this very far spectrum. There's it's going to change everything and nobody needs to, it bends right back around, right? It's going to change everything and no one needs to work anymore, but that then drives the fear of, well, what am I going to do? And productivity. But we're trying to grasp the scale and the scope of this change, of this technology. And I don't think anyone knows that yet. And so we're having a huge, I think, societal debate about what then does this mean. So how do we close that gap? And that's what we're really looking at closing, particularly when it comes to manufacturing workforce. So we're talking production level, factory floor workers, not the engineers who are dialed in, but for the factory floor workers, the operators and the technicians on the floor right now. They're not most of them are not in jobs where they're engaging with AI. So how do we lower the fear barrier? How do we lower the barrier to entrance by giving them exposure to contextualized information of what AI can do in a manufacturing situation in that environment, and then give them some of the skills. What do you do? How do you use it? What's the interaction point? Can
you give an example of that? Because one area that I think is undercovered and under-discussed is the safety aspect. When I think about, like, you've been at Ford 1988, right? Mm-hmm. Like, the floor, not aging. Right. The floor has changed so much. Safety has, I would assume, really improved.
Yes.
But can't AI just really improve it so much? And who are the best people to tell you how? It's the people on the front line interacting, no?
Right. So we have examples, and this will be part of the training. We have examples of how AI will help safety, because it'll be able to, with vision systems, scan to say, okay, you're too close to this machinery, this, swinging distance, this forklift, this PPE isn't in place, that the safety systems are not in place. Now, of course, safety is the ultimate priority for every manufacturer. You don't have a conversation about manufacturing without being safety first, right? You want to go home the way you came in. but it's hard to enforce all the way across. And people just might not be aware, right? You might miss that somebody's driving by with a machine, but your vision system in your autonomous vehicle that's moving parts through the factory, that can see the human because it's been programmed. But the vision, how we use AI to help enforce safety and bring that to the next level to ensure that is one of those examples and one of the things that we can, and everyone will say, oh, that makes sense, right? And it's those very practical use cases that I think can lower the temperature and bring more people in.
I have a real example on this. We've always paid a lot of attention to ergonomics and preventing injury.
Yeah.
And we still do, employ lots of ergonomicists who look at every operation and say, is this the proper operation or not? Now that can be sped up and is being sped up. We have one pilot going on right now where we basically put a camera on a worker and the camera is just watching the worker do their job. And the AI system then recommends, like, if you can move this lift 3 inches this way, or if you can change how he's standing, or if you can change the stance, you will lower the risk of injury by saying, that's really special.
Wow.
And we're applying that to a lot of operations. Yeah.
How do you think, Kumar, we can encourage the discussion and focus among not just the executives making these decisions, but the frontline workers to be more of a curiosity-based discussion instead of a fear-based discussion?
Twofold. One, training will be a big part of it, but it can't be the only solution because it becomes somewhat academic. Where we're seeing most success is in doing by learning. So the more examples we share, the more demonstrations we give, people get on board fairly quickly. So when they see that camera system I'm talking about recommend, it's going to make your job easier. It's going to put less stress on your elbow or your hand. They're like, wow, this is pretty cool. And they're more curious about it, and then it goes through the rest of the system. On the salaried worker side, they too do a lot of mundane work. So a buyer in our company is supposed to be a good negotiator and buy from the supplier. They spend so much time and money gathering data. Like, I am buyer for this part. What did this part cost last year? How much metal? How much weld length? What kind of processes, et cetera. And they're doing all of that data gathering and less time actually doing the meaningful work.
Right.
And we're creating tools for them that those models can suck up all that data and present to them in a very understandable form very quickly, and they can focus on what their real job is.
They love to do, which makes them better employees, more
Absolutely.
Engaged, retention, everything higher. What, Carolyn, is worker-centric technology to you? What does that look like in this AI age?
I think before we get to that, it's the communication and the culture that you're putting the worker-centric technology into.
This is about the trust conversation.
That's right. Yeah. And building the trust. I mean, we've been having, particularly since COVID, where in August of 2022, we had about 1 million open jobs in manufacturing in all levels, all different kinds of roles across the country. And we had to bring a lot of people in. And there was the main conversation with company executives was about, where am I going to find the people, right? And how do we keep them? Because there was so much churn in the market. And so what we all realized was that driving and putting front and center culture and communication was going to help you attract but retain people. So then if you do that, and then you have a trusted culture where then workers can say, oh, you're bringing in technology that's going to make my job better, safer, and improved. Yeah. It helps feed, and then it will continue to grow.
It makes me think of, sorry, I'm going to mention the Minnesota Vikings here. Go Detroit Lions. I think you beat us last year. But the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Kevin O'Connell, told me one time, talking about decisions making on the field, and he said, you always have to explain to the player the why. He said, just like your children, when they ask, why can't I have that 5th Pop-Tart or something? The why. And how much of that goes into leading in this moment, explaining to frontline workers at Ford the why for it all? Because that helps take away, I think, the fear. Yeah,
it's absolutely essential for every one of these projects. And our projects are coming. This is sort of early days, so I'm sure this will evolve. They're coming from 3 different areas. They're coming from bottom up, people inventing things with these new tools, which we want to encourage. They're coming from some top-down direction where we know certain processes are broken. And it's not going to happen naturally. So we put together a team of the right experts and say, you are going to fix this process, and use AI as necessary to do so. And the third part is what I was talking about, value stream mapping. Take some big job classifications, see where the waste is, and try to remove it. In all three of those cases, in each project, unless a leader doesn't explicitly explain why we're doing it,
right,
it doesn't succeed. So it's very crucial.
And then if you don't explain it, the worker thinks, oh, I'm going to put everything on the map that says this isn't a value to the company, and this is this proportion of my job.
Right.
You know, you're shining a spotlight on something that makes you think. And look, we were having a long conversation last night, which was fascinating, about the dignity of work, something we talk about all the time in manufacturing. And I grew up in a manufacturing family, and I can hear my father in my head saying, you've got to be productive.
Yeah.
People need to make things in this country, right? And so I'm very productive. And we have to talk about that dignity and that culture. And you're right. What are you going to do with the rest of your time? Well, maybe in the rest of the time of the portion of a worker's time that is freed up, they can invent a new process, invent a new system, invent a new solution, right? They have a little bit more time to be able to breathe and think and step back and say, oh, I can approach this differently and have a much better outcome.
Let's not forget, it was Google that came up with the concept, or popularized the concept, of 20% time.
That's right.
I think it worked out for them.
I think it turned out.
And so the question is, what happens if we gave our frontline workers that time?
Right.
To be creative, to think, to make robot dogs, which you definitely need to name after those two folks that created it. What do you think as you think about this time getting back, and where that can advance the company and those workers' prosperity?
Look, there are so many estimates that other speakers have talked about, how many open jobs there still are and are going to be.
Yes.
Millions and millions. So it's not like we're going to end up in a space where nobody has a job. It's going to be the quality of job. It's going to be the meaningfulness of job. It's going to be the purpose. Not to get too philosophical, but
go ahead.
Well, I believe firmly, and I think a lot of others would agree, that we're fundamentally looking for purpose and meaning. We're not looking to get to work and put widgets together. And I think setting aside or regaining this time back is going to be very good for employees, for their mental health, for their family health, for their physical health. I think the opportunity is tremendous.
We talked a little bit about perception in our prep call. We were talking about the perception of manufacturing jobs. Yes. And one of the things that has been interesting is that the perception of manufacturing as a career has changed so much. And Mike spoke to this morning. But since COVID, the perception of manufacturing careers, particularly among parents, has gone it was 27% before COVID. It was at 49% of parents said that they would encourage their children to take a manufacturing job.
Almost double.
Almost double.
5 years.
And why?
Yes.
Because it went from there's too much volatility and what happens if this one facility closes down, to during COVID, manufacturers were open. We were essential. We were keeping the economy running. We were creating all the things for the pandemic response. And everybody needed toilet paper, right? So we had all of these things that proved the importance of the supply chain, the idea of having things made nearby, and the durability of these jobs. So now fast forward, and again, as Mike talked about, because this is the thing he talks about all the time, the expense of college, the expense of education. And I'm not at one path or the other. We need all of the above. About half of our 440,000 open jobs in manufacturing require a 4-year degree. Half of them don't. So we need to look at the totality of the workforce, all the pathways to opportunity. And what we need to, and this is my main message when I'm out talking about this, we need to make sure that people are getting the skills they need for the job they want. Yeah. We need to show them what those paths are. And then when we talk about all of the robotics and the automation and the technology in the sector, that is something that is very attractive to many people, but we've got to bring the entire workforce along.
I think so much about that word essential, not just because I think Jim has really added it to the lexicon of talking about the essential economy at Forward and Beyond, but I think about essential because whenever we have a downturn economically, whenever new technology changes the landscape, we know nice to have doesn't cut it. It's always about essential. Yeah. So I guess I'll end on you, Kumar, with that question of being essential in the context of human AI collaboration, seeing the AI as something that will shift every job in some way, reshape it, replace some, yes, but also be a partner.
We are absolutely looking at this as a partner for our workers. But just telling them it's going to be a partner,
you got to show them.
You got to show them. You got to show them. But it's sort of like that old saying of momentum builds momentum. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing it already in the factory floor and engineers, when one enterprising person takes the step, creates a new tool for themselves to make their job easier, shares it with the person next to them, and they see it as a trusted partner saying, it's just helping me. And that just builds upon them. Mm-hmm. So I think that's how it'll play out.
Maybe it means more nights making it home to the dinner table to be with your family, which
Absolutely.
I think creates a better world for all of us.
Absolutely.
Thank you both for your leadership, for what you do, and for the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.